This is lesson 6-9, fractions, decimals, and percents. The graph shows the results of a survey about favorite types of TV shows. What percent of the teens chose comedy? Well, there's my comedy right here. This is 26. Over here it says percent of teens. So this would be 26%. Number 2, write this percent as a ratio in simplest form. Well, I could write it like this with a colon. 26 to 100, because percent means out of 100. I could write it like this as a fraction. Both of these can simplify by dividing them by 2. So either way I do that, I'm going to end up with 13 over 50, which is 26% as a ratio in simplest form. 8 1/3 is a fraction in simplest form. 8 1/3 percent, I should say. Again, percent means per 100. So it's 8 1/3 over 100. Now the improper fraction, I'm going to simply rewrite this as a division expression. Here I have a complex fraction where my numerator is a mixed number. So I have 8 1/3 divided by 100. I change 8 1/3 to an improper fraction. I multiply by the reciprocal. I simplify 25 over 300 to 1/12. So 8 1/3 percent as a fraction in simplest form is 1/12. A collectible action figure sold for 190% of its original value. Write this percent as a fraction in simplest form. Again, percent means per 100, so it's 190 over 100. I simplify that by dividing the numerator and denominator by 10. Then I rewrite my 19/10, which is an improper fraction, as a mixed number, 1 9/10. So 1 9/10 is 190% as a fraction in simplest form. In this case, a mixed number in simplest form. Write each percent as a fraction in simplest form. So example number 1, 150% becomes 150 over 100. I can divide both of those by the common factor of 50. It's fairly obvious that that's a common factor. Might be the greatest common factor. We get 3 over 2. We can leave it as 3 over 2. We can rewrite it as a mixed number of 1 1/2. 17.5%, we'll do that just like they did their example. We'll write that over 100, which means 17.5 divided by 100. We rewrite 17.5 as an improper fraction, gives us 35 over 2. Divided by 100 becomes 35 over 2 times the reciprocal of 100. We can simplify here by dividing by 5. It gives us 7 here, gives us 20 here. We multiply out, we get 7 over 40, which is what 17.5% is as a fraction in simplest form. C, 33 1/3. At some point you're going to recognize that 33 1/3% is 1/3, but we'll do it their way just to reinforce that. 33 1/3 divided by 100, because percent means per 100, means 33 1/3 divided by 100, which means 100 over 3 divided by 100, which means 100 over 3 times the reciprocal of 100, which is 1 over 100. The hundreds simplify away, and my answer is 1/3. 33 1/3 percent as a fraction in simplest form is 1/3. To write a fraction like 8/25 as a percent, multiply the numerator and denominator by a number so that the denominator is 100. If the denominator is not a factor of 100, you can write fractions as percents by using a proportion. In this example right here, 25 is obviously a factor of 100, so we can write equivalent fractions there is what they're saying. When we can't do that, we write it as a proportion. In this example, 15 is not a factor of 100, So we write that as a proportion. They estimate here, which is a good idea. 4/15 is about 4/16. 4/16 simplifies to a fourth. 1/4 is 25%. So I'm looking for an answer of about 25%. Here's my proportion. 4 out of 15, or 4 over 15, is equal to n over 100. This is the percent that I'm looking for right here, my variable. I do cross products. 4 times 100 is 400. 15 times n is 15n. Divide both sides by 15. Gives me 26.67, which is rounded to the nearest hundredth. Actually, I get 26.666666, and so on. So rounding to the nearest tenth or nearest hundredth gives me this 26.67, which is 26 and 67/100%, which is pretty close to 25%. Reasonably close. It's a reasonable answer. In Boston, 89 out of 100,000 residents blog. Write this fraction as a percent. Well, again, cross products, 89 over 100, or 100,000 I should say, is equal to n over 100. I do my cross products. I get 8,900 here. I get 100,000 here. I divide both sides by 100,000, which means in this 8,900 case, I move my decimal point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places to the left, and my result then is 0.089 as a fraction. So as a percent, it would be 0.089%, which is 89 thousandths of a percent. Really small number. 2 out of 15. Well, 15 is not a factor of 100. So I'm going to set up my proportion. N over 100. Cross products, 200 equals 15n. If I then divide both sides of my equation by 15, I get n on this side. And I can simplify 200 over 15 by dividing both of those by 5. Gives me 40 over 3. When I divide 40 by 3, I get, as a decimal now, 13.333 ... So if I'm rounding this decimal to a percent to the nearest hundredth, it would be 13 and 33/100%. 7 over 1,600. Obviously, 1,600 is not a factor of 100. So I'm going to use my proportions again. 700, cross product here, equals 1,600x. Divide both sides of my equation by 1,600. Simplify 700. This divides out, gives me x. Simplify 700 over 1,600, which gives me 1,600 into 700. If I divide that out, gives me 0.437, which rounded to the nearest hundredth is about 44%. Example 3, 17 over 25. In this case, I do have a number that's a factor of 100. So I multiply by 4, I multiply by 4, I get 68 over 100, which is 68%. In this lesson, you have written percents as fractions and fractions as percent. In Chapter 4, you wrote percents and fractions as decimals. You can also write a fraction as a percent by first writing the fraction as a decimal and then writing the decimal as a percent. We did decimals to percents means move your decimal point 2 places to the right. So 0.8 as a decimal becomes 2 places to the right, 80%. 5/6 as a percent, round to the nearest hundredth. This result is 5 divided by 6. I get 0.8333 repeating. If I round to the nearest hundredth, I get 83.33, which is 83 and 3300% by taking this decimal right here and multiplying it by 100, moves it 2 places to the right. This is my result. 3/5 I can simply write as a equivalent fraction. If I wanted to, this would become 60 over 100, which would be 60%. They've done it differently there. They've divided 5 into 3, which gives me 0.6. Either way, I get 60%. 5/16. I'm going to take 16 divided into 5, because 16 is obviously not a factor of 100. I'm going to divide out 4 places. What I get is 3, 1, 2, 5, which is 31.25%. 7/12 equals 7 divided by 12. Again, I'm going to divide out so I can round to the nearest hundredth. What I get is 0.583333 ... which means it goes on and on and on and on. So this becomes 58 and 3300%. 2/9. This one, we're going to cheat on this one a little bit. I've shown kids a long time ago that there's a pattern with the ninths. 1/9 is 0.1 repeating. 2/9 is 0.2 repeating. 3/9, which is a third, is 0.3 repeating. 4/9 is 0.4 repeating. So we just flat out know that this is 0.2222 ... So as a percent, it's going to be 22.22%. We just know that. Mika is mowing lawns to earn extra money. She has mowed 6 of 13 lawns. What percent of the lawns has she mowed? So 6 out of 13 becomes 13 divided into 6. We'll do the little division for you this time just to show you. 13 times 4 is 52. We subtract, we get 80. 13 goes into 80 6 times. Would be 60 plus 18 would be 78. Subtract, 13 goes into 21 time. I'm going to divide one more time. Bring down the 0. It's going to go 5 times, which is 65. At this point we can stop. We have 46.15%. Some fractions with denominators that are not factors of 100 are used often in everyday life or everyday situations. It's helpful to memorize these fractions and their equivalent decimals and percents. These are the common decimals, fractions, percents, equivalents we should know. 1/3, 0.3 repeating, 33 1/3. 2/3 is twice that, 0.6 repeating, 66 2/3. 1/8 is half of a fourth, 0.125. 3/8 is halfway between a fourth and a half, 0.375. 5/8 is halfway between a half and 3/4, 0.625, and 7/8 is halfway between 3/4 and 1, so 0.875, and then the corresponding percents. We should know thirds and eighths. Should memorize those so we don't have to do the conversions. Okay, let's do some check your understanding. Problem number 1, write each percent as a fraction in simplest form. 135% means 135 over 100. We can simplify by dividing by 5. numerator and denominator gives us 27 over 20. If we leave it as an improper fraction, that's what it would be. If we write it as a mixed number, it's 1 and 7 over 20. 18.75% would be 18.75 over 100. Get rid of the decimal by multiplying by 100. We get 1875 over 10000. We simplify by dividing by 25. Numerator and denominator, which gives us 75 over 400. We can simplify again by dividing by 5, gives us 15 over 80. We can simplify again by dividing by 5, which gives us 3 over 16, which is our answer. A lot of work there. 7.5%, 7 1/2 over 100 becomes 15 over 2 divided by 100, which is 15 over 2 times the reciprocal. When we simplify that, we get 3 over 40. We get, simplify here, we get, divide by 20, we get 20. Here we get 3. Multiply numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. That's where we get to 3 over 40. 66 2/3. We just looked at that on a chart. So we're going to pretend that we remember that this is 2/3. And we should have done that. We could work it out for you, but we're going to remember it. Number 5. Steve and Rebecca ate 62.5% of their pizza, which becomes 62.5 over 100, which becomes 625 over 1,000. We simplify first by dividing by 25, gives us 25 over 40. We divide by 5 again, gives us 5/8. That was on the other chart on the previous page as well. We just didn't remember that one. Number 6, 3/4. That one you should know as a percent is 75 over 100, which is 75%. Every kid should know that one. 4 over 2,500. I could divide by 2 and simplify that a little bit, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to divide 2,500 into 4, and what I get is 0.0016. So when I write that as a percent, I divide by 100, I get 0.16%. Really small number. Number 8. 4/11. Again, I'm going to divide, just straight out divide 11 into 4 because it looks like it's going to be an easy division, and it is. What I get is 3, 6, 3, 6, 3, 6, ... So it becomes 36.36%. 1/9, again, we memorized all those ninths. That's 0.1 repeating, which is 0.1111, which is 11.11%. Number 10. Moses finished 11 out of 15 homework problems. What percent is that? We're going to divide 15 into 11.0000, and what we get is 0.7333 ... which would be then 73.33%. At this point, you should stop the video, go to my Moodle page, log in using your 6-digit student number, and use your password, which is the first 6 digits of your last name and your 2-digit birth date, and take the lesson quiz 6